I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I swear that it's true. Swear it. Got another perfect pod headed your direction. Andrew Kuo, are you elbow deep, maybe up to your shoulders in a pile of garlic knots right now?
Wow, you're reading my mind with the elbow part because I've had the most hip-hop day ever, man. I was on a bus, I was on a couple subways. I got some walking slices. That's right, 2 walking slices from 2 different places, man. Incredible, just an incredible muggy New York City rappy day.
And
so
you had a tweet, or do you want to go on about that? Because I want to talk garlic knots, but you've got other theories. Where you seized the bull by the horns, Andrew Kuo.
So I go to most pizza spots near my house, and I go a lot enough so I can tell like which guys are making which slices at what time and which day, right? Some are thinner, some are thicker, some got those bubbles, some don't. There's a crust situation. It's all, you can see who's making it. It's usually 1 or 2 guys. And recently, this is maybe like my 4th slice in the last week or so. They've all kind of shifted their crust action, and it all reminds me of the infamous Scars Pizza in the LES. And Scars Pizza is a damn hit, right? Like, people travel all over. They come from Midtown. They come from North Midtown, South Midtown, East Midtown. You know what I'm talking about. And
Like the greater Midtown region.
Okay. The greater Midtown area. The tri-Midtown state. And like, I know there's supply chain issues, and I know the war in Ukraine is affecting like wheat prices and all these basic commodities that personally I take for granted. Like the price of flour, I don't really track. But it's a huge thing, and I wonder if either these places are they're learning how to Eurostep after seeing Manu Ginobili do it, and they're like, we need to do it more like Scars if we want that Scars money, if we want that Midtown Scars money. Or is this a supply chain issue, and maybe there's one kind of flour that's cheaper and more available currently?
So the pizza conspiracy is that it's a swagger jacking in the form of flour. Or a flour or a component in the crust. Whether are we talking actual ingredients? Are we talking techniques? What are you uncovering? Is it a crumb count issue?
No, maybe it's a chew count issue. There's no shattering. There's no shatter count of anything, of any kind. But you know how Scars has that, like, it kind of bites back? You got to kind of tear away at it a little bit. It's got that gluten. I'm sure there's a term for it that I don't know. But it's extreme.
Would you like to coin a phrase for it? that chew glue?
Yeah, okay. It's got that chew glue. On a scale from 1 to glue, it's chew. But it has a distinct, like, al dente kind of mindset. And I know it's probably like working the dough. Scar's famous for his blend of certain grains that he infamously grinds in the early mornings like a blue-collar king.
Each grain more ancient than the last, in fact.
Yeah. So are these places jumping on that ancient grain bandwagon? Are they Johnny-come-lately bandwagon grain dudes?
I like this theory, and because of course, you know, these schmoes coming down from my toe, which I call Midtown, you know, shorten it up. This hip new neighborhood.
Takes so long to say mid. Anyway.
But yeah, these chumps, these saps who are easily parted from their ducats, wandering around obliviously, they can't tell one ancient grain from the next. A bunch of fucking rubes.
Especially when you lather it in sauce, cheese.
These hayseeds
Yeah.
These yokels from Sutton Place
So it's
coming
like
down in their limousines.
the pizza trends is what I care about, Ben. And the pizza trends are a trending these days, because you had that Euros, you had that Steph Curry in Scars, right? So then everyone else is like, yo, what if we pay a little attention to how ancient our grains are?
I'm just thinking about our friend Pablo Torre. Lives in Midtown.
Oh,
Comes down to hang
king
with us.
shit.
Eyes agog at the the lights and sights of downtown Manhattan.
He's a
To take
carved lord, though.
his stagecoach back home to the hinterlands of Midtown.
If you Google Pablo, which I have, or I have had the interns Google, you got to get a great picture of our guests, for these
Oh yeah.
drops. So the interns are Googling Pablo's image, and you don't have to do much searching to find out he's a carb lord. He's been featured in various platforms talking about certain bagels, what he enjoys about bagels. Sitting
Truly
on
a connoisseur of
Yeah.
chew glue.
the chew glue dude, as they say.
The chew glue guru.
But yeah, man.
But-
I mean, pizza trends.
Wait.
Wait.
Don't get me off my message. You were talking garlic knots, and I think you said that they've been erased, that they've been zapped. Memory
I-
hold.
I was
Where
going
where
there.
are the garlic knots?
I was going there. So, pizza shop trends. Like, you don't see those like Pac-Man machines and those like curved booths anymore. Like the plywood, plastic covered booths that I grew up with in your whatever. It's changed now, right? Everything's kind of turning into a Christmas restaurant, but we don't have to get in. That's for a Christmas chat. But yeah, I was thinking the other day because it was late at night, and I always freeze French bread into my freezer, so I always have some bread if I'm in a pinch and I have nothing to eat late at night. So I made myself a delicious piece of garlic bread, man. It was awesome. I lathered up that bread full of butter. I put some dried garlic powder on it. Really easy. Dried parsley.
That's what I was going to ask, because you went with the sort of schoolhouse version, or the
college, yeah.
Yeah, like you
Collegiate.
didn't actually mince garlic or rub it on the bread. Like you were a real Iberian or Mediterranean.
Yeah, I got lazy, man. I was wicked tired. I didn't want to cook any vegetables. I didn't want to do anything. But the garlic powder works fine. That stuff is kind of magical. I'm not getting fancy.
I'm not knocking it. I was just clarifying the method to your garlic madness.
Also, I don't want my fingers to smell like garlic, and I know I've done that trick you told me to do. It does not work, man.
It totally works. Maybe you just don't have real aluminum in or steel in your sink. I don't know.
Does it have to be
Maybe
aluminum or steel?
one of the two?
I mean,
What do you have?
like,
Ceramic?
I know I have a crappy sink, man, but it should work if I touch tinfoil, right? It doesn't have to be a sink.
Whatever the substance is, I guess they're all steel. So I guess it has to be steel.
Yeah. So can I just touch a spoon? Does stainless
Your
steel
s-
not work? Like a knife?
don't-
Can I just touch my knife?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Saying
trying to find it.
it's tricky. I'm willing to try again. But you let me
I don't
down
know.
that one time.
It always works though. Every time I have garlic in my hands, you rub it in the sink and it's gone.
Are you sure
It
you
just
can
vanishes.
smell the
It's like
garlic?
magic. No, it's gone.
Maybe the steel erases your sense of smell, and you think it's gone from your fingers. Anyway, we're getting derailed a little bit here. Do you?
Yeah, I
When's
wish.
the last?
I just wish I had. I wish I had some evidence here, but it's true. Anyway.
Can you find it?
I could not. Anyway, that's what the interns are for, and they let us down.
Okay, so when's the last?
They let us down a lot. What are you going to say?
Sadly, more gruel for them. So when's the last time you rolled up into a pizzeria and got like a dozen garlic knots and sat down and pounded them.
I mean,
yesterday?
we're talking hours.
Bring out the knots.
There was a period of my life, I can't say I'm proud of it, when I would get a slice and be like, and 2 knots. Or you go in there and just be like, 4 pepperoni rolls, no slices, just cut out the middleman, and just eat those little bricks with pepperoni rolled up inside.
Yeah, so a pepperoni roll is kind of like just ronies rolled up into pizza dough and cooked, right? It's sort of like a Cinnabon, but made of 1,000
Yes.
different unidentifiable animals.
I would say it's kind of a mini stromboli.
Oh,
There may be there's probably some cheese in there too. There's probably some cheese.
like Parmesan or something, but nothing
Parmesan,
stringy,
yeah, I think-
right?
There might, but I don't know, because it could be a little mozzarella. It could be some Parmesan. It's basically just like a mini slice of pizza in like the size of half a fist.
Yeah. And these are all wonderful things, right? Whether it be garlic bread, garlic knots, mini strombolis, aka pizza rolls. Like, these are all amazing things, but they never caught on. Or maybe they were popular at one point, but like, I don't see anyone eating like a plate full of garlic knots ever.
I felt like most pizza places a long time ago would offer those, especially neighborhood ones. Maybe not the famous ones, where you wait
Right.
in line because they're known for their slices, but the same spots that also sell meatball parm or
Sure.
a like lesser parms.
A calzone.
Calzones, they had like many options. It was just pizza permutations.
Anything you can do with
Sort of
that
like-
dough, right?
Exactly. Like, all right, we got some slices. What else can we do with it? Mini strombolis, calzones, etc. I saw a new pizza place. Actually, it's an old pizza place, but it's I hadn't gone in there in a while, and I noticed they had these creations. They're still churning them out, and I didn't order them, but now I'm thinking about it. And I looked at their menu, and they had a lot of parms. In my opinion,
Rank
the
the
meatball
parms.
parm is the king of the parms.
Okay, can you do 1 through 3 for me real quick? Because there's only 3 parms.
I thought there was only 3, but I'm looking at this menu. I haven't.
I'm not counting shrimp. I'm not counting breaded shrimp, man.
Okay. Look. I'm just gonna read off their parms, and you can contest if you like. Chicken parm, real or fake? Real parm,
Fully real, 100% real.
great. Meatball parm, say less.
Exactly.
Sausage parm.
Nope, doesn't exist. That doesn't know. I mean, I
Really?
don't want to be. I don't want to be a parm cop here, but like,
You're being a
know.
parm cop. I hate to tell you this, but you're being a classic parm cop right now.
whoop whoop. That's not a parm. Sorry, I'm gonna have to confiscate that. That's sausage and peppers, sir, with cheese.
So you're saying I think that sausage and I think it's a real one and it's delightful when good. But are you going to say
Eric
the only
Adams
other?
ass parm fan.
Are you going to say that the third one would be the veal naturally?
No, eggplant.
What?
Eggplant.
Yeah, I know. I think there's 4 parms.
Veal
I'm
parm.
down. I will sacrifice sausage, but the veal parmesan.
Whoa, I have not seen that sandwich in my life, but I believe
to be honest,
it exists.
like it's really like an Italian schnitzel that you wouldn't eat in a sandwich.
I don't like veal. Well, politically, I'm kind of agnostic, but I just don't like the taste of it. I haven't had it in decades.
No, I think I'm with you. The veal is like a dish rather than a sandwich. The sandwich parms. I'm just looking at their menu. Chicken meatball. You're saying shrimp parm not real.
I've seen. I don't claim it's real. I mean,
I'm seeing it on their menu. They're charging $18 for it.
can I see your parm ID, please? Step out of the pizzeria, sir. Thank you. Can you tell me where you've been before this pizzeria?
Oh, they got a lot of rolls too. I mean, I'm just reading this off. All right, they have a cheese calzone, chicken parmesan roll,
What the hell?
sausage, peppers, and onions roll, spinach and feta roll,
How? What?
BBQ roll, buffalo roll, pepperoni roll. All right, they're wilding.
Wow. Um. I would like to try this restaurant. This sounds awesome. I gotta put down my badge and gun and go check out this restaurant.
One thing you have not seen on their menu is the Spam roll, because Spam is apparently under lock and key. Here in New York City, shoplifting epidemic has reached new highs or lows, depending on how you view this, where Spam is in plastic containers in local delicatessens, no, supermarkets, stores.
What do you mean
Will
by
Stally.
plastic containers? Like a Spam comes in a can, no?
Right. So Willie Staley, a editor at the New York Times, or New York Times Magazine, posted a photo showing a can of Spam in its tin inside a larger plastic box. And if you've been to places like Duane Reade or Rite Aid in New York, they've recently been putting so many products under lock. Like if you want to get shampoo, you have to notify a staffer to come over and unlock a long case. But what he found was the surreal image of Spam inside a clear plastic security box, which basically had the impact of making it 4 times bigger in mass, and you'd have to have someone come and unlock the plastic box to take the Spam out for you to purchase it.
See, I thought it was a Spam collectible. I thought it was being graded. It's like, ooh, this is a mint condition Spam. If it was like an 8, it'd go for $3. But it's a 9.8, so that's what'll cost you $2,000, man. Spam collectible.
That's good. I like that. All right, so here we've got like a 1972 very good condition Spam.
Oh no, Steve, 1989. Here we go.
It's got a couple dents. Let's get
Right.
that out onto a tray. Nice.
It's kind of like puffed out because it's from like World War One, and you definitely get botulism if you ate it. But it grades really high, so the book value is around like 1.5K.
But so the New York Post happened upon that viral photo that went up last week, and I guess they sent someone to the store to take their own photo rather than use his own. I think I could be wrong, but that was the front page of the New York Post, and a testament to shoplifting gone mad. If there's something I can't get upset about, it is shoplifting. It's just very difficult for me to get my hackles raised by hearing about 5-finger discounts.
Shoplifting was a complicated issue a few years ago. I believe, was it Rite Aid that was shutting down all these locations that was like serving the community, and they're like predatory kind of opportunists. Like they essentially in New York City, there's no mom and pop pharmacies anymore. It's sort of like 7-Eleven tried to end bodegas, but Rite Aid and Duane Reade, they just kind of ran a monopoly, and CVS over places where you can just get prescriptions filled. And people online were like, well, you close all these places that serve our community. First, you make us sick with all this terrible food, and then we need medication, and we can't even get this medication. And they're like, oh, it's because of shoplifting. It's your guys' fault. You can't have anything nice. And everyone's like, there was like 5 cases of shoplifting on record last year, and it was a big debate as to like if the idea of shoplifting was being used to weaponize a practice.
I'm buying that.
Yeah. Seems to work out, right? Checks out for me.
Sold.
Yeah.
You're saying a corporation is like victim blaming?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they all lost tons of money on those establishments. Yeah, I think this has happened in many industries, but places will close despite making a profit. They're just not making enough profit that
Right.
it works for them to keep doing it. They'd rather go and open a different store somewhere else and make more money.
Yeah, they franchise too quickly, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even you're seeing the prices surging in supermarkets. People just keep talking about inflation. They aren't talking about supermarkets like making, record profits. Like, sure, there are products that for reasons tied to, say, climate change or supply chains are more expensive. But overall, it's just charging more. I mean, one of my friends who works at a restaurant was telling me that the potatoes that he used to get for $16 a pound are now $40 a pound because of climate change.
Jesus. Yeah.
He's like, they are now 3 times as much, or something along those lines, because they had their harvest ruined because there was too much water or too little water, whatever the farming equation for amazing potatoes would be. But they just don't exist. Like that's a very reasonable
Jordan
cause for prices to go up. But along, supermarkets just saying, actually, we can raise everything 20%, and every supermarket's going to do the same. And then, quote, fingers, inflation.
I know. I mean, I don't want to get into an economics talk about inflation, but right, it's more of a scare tactic than I ever thought it would be, and it's more kind of generated out of nothing.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting to about the fear of shoplifting. That was basically the bringing it back to that idea where it has been noticeable over the last, 5 years or so, the willingness to make shopping at places like Duane Reade like visibly uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Where you go in, you're like, I want to buy this product. I have to stand here and look at it through the glass before getting someone to unlock it, and then I can have my deodorant. Like it's fucking weird. Like that's not how you're supposed to shop for deodorant.
Yeah.
Waiting for someone to unlock something so you can walk over and then self-check it out. It's a very odd way of doing business.
Yeah. And
but I don't. Yeah. But sorry, my last point was just like the reason for employees at this point is basically to stock shelves and open them, but not to ring you up.
Right. Or having opinions about anything. I mean, I at the risk of sounding rhetorical, it's like sometimes I think, even let's say there is shoplifting, and shoplifting is an issue for these Rite Aids, and one Rite Aid is suffering more than the next. My question, and this is where I might sound annoyingly rhetorical, is instead of locking them up, like figuring out why people are compelled to shoplift, right? Like, of course it's a thrill and some people will do it, but I think by and large, no one really wants to risk getting in trouble. And instead of locking everything, I wonder why is it as clear as inflation? We're making the same amount of money, but the products that sustain our lives are going up. And so people are compelled to shoplift things like Spam, right? And it's kind of, I think we're doing the reverse thing. Like, there's too much crime, we should lock everyone up. Sure, but that seems like the Knicks finding the biggest name they can find in free agency. My rhetorical question is always like, why are people committing crimes? Why are the Knicks losing? It's not because of the thing right in front of your face. It's something that people live with, and it's not what they do, it's how they feel, kind of.
Well, in the case of the Duane Reades, I don't know the products that are getting stolen a lot, but I do know that stuff like detergent gets shoplifted a lot because you can resell it. There are certain items along that way, and maybe deodorant's the same, right?
Sure.
Like a stick of deodorant maybe costs, let's say, $7 there or something like that, and if you could bag up a bunch of them, then you could sell them each for $3 on the street, and they're not perishable, they're not large. So like, I get the appeal from a shoplifting standpoint if you are someone who is desperate.
But those prices
like,
are
to your point. The original problem is that people are desperate, and
Right.
people are trying to come up with ways to make a little walk around money. Where you're like, I'm not saying that Duane Reade needs to solve our societal problems, but it's like we're not seeing just shoplifting. This is indicative of much larger things.
Right. There's a desperation there that is what lawmakers should be thinking about, but they're not, right? Like, they're thinking about punishment. Whatever. A story as old as time. But, sometimes I'll walk in and like a little thing of Zyrtec is like $40. I'm like, oh, someone should just steal this. Like, how is this $40? And like, I know Mark Cuban's a controversial dude, but like, I really love his pharmaceutical idea, being like, we'll make you bootleg pharmaceuticals for a third of the price, for basically cost. And that's what like conservatives want, a free market, except they hate that because they're losing money. But that is a free market gesture, right? And it gets sad when, I mean, the spamming thing is hilarious, especially with like all the Damien Hirst slash Ed Ruscha kind of winks in that image. But it's also, when you put Zyrtec or even like birth control under lock and key, of course that stuff is expensive. It might be embarrassing to buy. Like a 16-year-old might be like, well, I don't want to walk up to the counter with this, so I'm going to steal it, But then when it's like something like spam, which is just like joy and pleasure, I'm like, okay, that's sad. If people are actually stealing that stuff, because like that's affordable, and that is just like a treat, or maybe dinner if you consider dinner a treat, like whatever. But like that to me was the shock of that image.
There's definitely something going on where there's a lack of sort of dignity to life in general.
For sure.
And, there's always been, let's talk New York, right? There's always been sitting in the crumbling subway system, waiting to get on a packed train with, sweat dripping down your heather gray shirt. Those terrible moments, those moments of humiliation. A cab goes by and splashes you, whatever. But those are just like things that happen, and it's part of like this shared existence of living in a city, right? But the stuff like that, going in and being treated like a criminal, and that you have to ask permission to grab deodorant to walk up and wait for someone, like that's not dignity. Like I'm waiting, I have to ring a bell to get my paws on some deodorant to make sure that I'm not going to run out of the building with it. Like that's not being treated like with dignity. Or planes right now. Well, what the fuck is going on? Just canceled left and right, people getting hung out to dry, people just sleeping in airports. Like, how is this something that we were able to master 40 years ago, but it's gotten worse? Like we're mushed into like main cabins like cattle. The prices have soared despite not getting, the same treatment in terms of leg space, food, drinks. Can't even smoke on a plane these days. Or getting, baggage checks, all this stuff. It just increasingly has sucked. Meanwhile, it's more expensive. Like, where's the dignity, man? Where is the dignity?
I mean, like TSA, right? It's like, take off your belt. I'm like, okay. It's like, I'm going to kind of touch your balls. I'm like, okay. And like, I can just imagine what it feels like to be like a woman going through that process, being like, that did not feel dignified. And then being like,
take your shoes off and go around through this metal detector in your bare feet. Like, not a lot of dignity in that.
Hey, you have no control over your own body, so good luck with that. You cannot plan your own family, so like that's interesting. Like you can't marry that person who you love deeply. I'm like, but I can marry and get divorced willy-nilly as far as I'm concerned, but you cannot like form a union with the person you love. Also, not get the tax breaks of a married couple. Like every married couple does, because we decide so. It's like, I mean, to talk about the as your girl Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan, talk about indignity, right? Like the Taiwanese country is like, we have known a certain way of life for generations since the war, but like if we were under rule of China, like where does dignity and human rights fall? Like that's a big question right now. So it's not exclusive to this country, but when I was really relieved last week when the reports came out and the economy kind of like stayed put. I was worried that day was going to be a really dark day because it would affect all the things we like our friends who work in the service industry, all of us who have to pay rent. All these things would have been chaos, but it held. So I don't know, all this stuff, man. The question is dignity, and the question is who controls that dignity.
Yeah, just to make one final point on that, what I'm talking about dignity is like, we know that people who are poor in America, people who are vulnerable, people who are in marginalized groups, communities, etc., they have their dignity threatened at every turn, right?
Yeah.
Like just the act of, say, peeing in a bottle when you're working in an Amazon factory or whatever, like that is the
Wearing a
definition.
diaper. Yeah.
For that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm even talking about us as like middle class folks buying deodorant. Like we know that people have it like they are living undignified lives because they're being mistreated by larger corporations. But it's almost a seeping effect where it's like no one will be treated with dignity anymore. It's I don't know. It's a coarsening of society. But yeah, I'm just clarifying. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about me being disrespected by society overall in the way that a lot of people are. Just to be clear.
And yeah, I'm a heavy fan of hip hop and a user of the subway, the last hip hop thing in New York City, and the bus system. And there's a level of like indignity, to your point, is not something I can claim. But there's a level of like knowing my place in society when I'm like being rerouted. I'm like, I get it. Like I can't really take a car. It's too far to walk. So I'm at your mercy. Like, how would you have me do this? It's like, well, you got to go up and transfer there, go back on the platform, go another stop, and then get onto another bus. I'm like, yes, sir, I will do that because I need to get to where I have to go. And then we hear all these things about people who take private jets everywhere, right? And like that's been news a little bit lately.
So your girl, Taylor Swift, is the
I'm not mad at
climate
her.
criminal. She's
Some
the
jams,
climate criminal.
man. Yeah.
Climate criminal.
Yeah.
And she has been singled out as the world's largest polluter, or at least America's largest polluter, in terms of using her private jet. Her spokespeople said, no. She's barely even taken those things. It's other people just flying around in her plane. I'm like, that doesn't really change it. You could also say no.
Right.
But she was among the luminaries, such as Floyd Mayweather, Jay-Z, Blake Shelton, Steven Spielberg, Kim Kardashian, and Mark Wahlberg, who were mentioned on that list.
And the Jenner started this whole thing.
Right. Are you also vilifying the users of the PJ?
I mean, I'm also kind of like agnostic about this. I am aware that people have a certain amount of wealth where they can do this, and I'm aware that its carbon footprint is astronomical compared to the people like me and you who are not drinking out of plastic straws anymore, or like separating our recycling. Like we're doing this all for performative measures. If companies and people and the corporation or the companies that run these private jets is what we should be talking about, but it's more fun to talk about individuals. And people have been waiting to hate on Taylor Swift forever, man. Like Steven Spielberg, like people kind of don't really care about, but if I was going to pick one person people wanted to bring down, it'd be like Taylor Swift over Beyonce. Clearly no one wants to take down Rihanna. Everyone loves her, but it's the Swifties that we're going after.
I mean, I get the call out. I think you can say, sure, by all means, vilify her, call it out.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing. If that makes a bunch of executives and a bunch of celebrities and a bunch of business people less likely to use a private jet, to say, actually, you know what? Instead of taking a flight from New York to Philly, I'm just gonna drive down there. I'm just gonna jump on the train because, like, I know guys who do that. Yeah. People who are ownership in the Sixers, they take private planes between New York and Philly. Mm-hmm. They don't get called out because they're not Taylor Swift. Right. I would like to see how Tim Cook gets around. Yeah. Let's see what he does. Because I know people who rode on a plane with him from New York to like the Bay Area.
Oh, but it's A-Rod, right? Alex Rodriguez, the guy I hated anyway. Yeah, I mean, we don't look up enough, right?
Right. I'm just like, all right, well, how does the guy who runs Boeing get around? I don't know.
Right. Just, can we go down, I mean, this is pizza cop behavior, but like, can we just go down the list of all the billionaires and tell us what their carbon footprint is? It gets kind of like wonky and a bit intense, but like, would this behavior affect the course of the health of our planet? Like, maybe so, right? If these airplanes are doing the damage that they say they are, then sure, right? I understand if you're Billy Joel and you don't want to play in Las Vegas, but we'll send a private plane for you and you'll do it. I'm like, right, I get it. New York, New Jersey is very far from Las Vegas. But if it's like, if you're going to Wells Fargo from MSG, like, a car ain't so bad.
But also, if you made the experience of riding a plane on like a commercial airliner more tolerable, then maybe people with means to fly on private jets would say, actually, I'll just ride first class. It's not going to be that bad. But instead, oh, my flight's canceled. I've got to wait 3 hours. I'm sitting on the tarmac. All these things. That maybe if you were someone with the option of flying a PJ, you would say, nah, man, that's such a drag. I have to be there 3 hours before the flight. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. It might get delayed. Fuck the planet. We're getting to Vegas in style.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this the other day. Like, Powerball, I think someone won like $178 million in Powerball in Michigan, I think, last week. It was a noteworthy sum. It had accumulated to a noteworthy sum. And I know I sound weird when I say this, but like, I don't think human beings should live forever because it just messes up our entire psychology and our feelings of like accomplishment, worth, whatever. Like, the human life cycle is an important thing that to have an end. In the same way, I think, like, we've had this discussion before with our buddy Hot Dog Legs. It's like, I don't want to really win $1 billion overnight because I'm going to be Travis Scott, man. I'm going to be like, yo, Ben, do you want to go to Summer League? We can take off in an hour and just be there like in another hour. And then we'll be back by dinner time. Like, you just want to go? I don't give a fuck.
And I've got like an incredible eggplant parm waiting on the plane.
Thank God.
I was chef. He's bringing out each parm more parmier than the last.
I thought you were going to mention a parm that didn't qualify as the top 3 parms in this world. So I was like, I hope he says eggplant. A whole lot of knots. So you're gonna have to reserve 2 seats on my private jet. One for you and one for all the knots that you're gonna bring. Oh, it's gonna be a smelly cabin.
Yeah, when people talk about, the period of time after the year 2000, I've always been calling them the knots in reference to that was when I was mostly eating pepperoni rolls and garlic knots.
Oh, Kevin Knox. We thought you were going to bring garlic knots. Okay. Yeah, there's a seat for Kevin Knox, but we were hoping for the garlic knots.
I mean, I get it. And here's the next topic. Very, 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 very similar in some ways. Although it doesn't really involve Taylor Swift or private planes, but similar nonetheless. So there's an article in the Los Angeles Times, and it's talking about how so many people are going down to Mexico City that there is now a lot of blowback from the original inhabitants of Mexico City, the Mexicans themselves, the Chilangos, as they're called, people from Mexico City in slang. So here's a couple of the little headlines from little blurbs from the story. Hundreds of responses poured in after a young American posted this seemingly innocuous tweet. Do yourself a favor and remote work in Mexico City. It is truly magical. Please don't, read one of the kinder replies. The city is becoming more and more expensive every day, in part because of people like you, and you don't even realize or care about it. There are signs up saying, new to the city, working remotely, you're a fucking plague and the locals fucking hate you. Leave. A lot of die yuppie scum energy. But I gotta say, it's true. It's true. As someone who has been going to Mexico City for a long time, it's true. Going down there during Zona Maco last year, which was fun, had a great time. It was shocking how many Americans were in like Roma, Condesa, those neighborhoods. working remotely. Like they're on a Zoom in a cafe. You heard English everywhere. Those neighborhoods changed so much. It's a great city. There are certainly other places you can go in there, and you won't have that same experience. But man, it was so true that there were a zillion people from America. Also, UK, Paris, whatever, but specifically Americans, tons from LA, who moved there during the pandemic because it's cheap, it's warm. It was one of the only countries we were allowed to go to. And I get it, man. I get it. It was very noticeable.
It's also happening in Portugal, Lisbon right now. Lisbon was such a great place to visit. You got leather gloves there. I got a little bit of food poisoning and too much delicious seafood. I just hit my ceiling. But recently it's become kind of overrun with people who are working remotely, and it's affecting the economy there and the quality of life and the costs of living there. And have you been watching the Anarchist documentary
You told me
series?
about that show, but I have not been watching it.
It's pretty good. It's less about anarchy, sadly, and more about weirdos that Nathan Fielder would find. It's about a certain crew of anarchists that went to Acapulco, and something really bad happens. Spoiler, if you're gonna watch it, but I'll just tell you, it's been alluded to in the first episode, so you'll figure it out. But someone gets murdered by a local cartel there because they kind of overstayed their welcome and overstepped their boundaries, and it is what we're the subject that we're talking about, like locals only, goes back probably since the beginning of like consciousness and caveman stuff. Like animals even get territorial, like hunter gatherers, right? Like the minute we figured out how to farm, we became territorial and we started making laws about like land property kind of things. So